What is up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. It is Nerdicane, and once again, I am going to talk Star Wars. I did something really good over the last couple days. As we know, I haven't been doing a whole lot of videos lately. I went up to Cloudland Canyon in Georgia, in northwest Georgia. Had a miserable time. It was cold. It was rainy. They always say, "Oh, it's beautiful up there, the mountains and the leaves." There's a sweet spot of the leaves, going to see the leaves, that people don't really know about. There's a sweet spot of about 2 weeks. And if you're not in that 2 weeks, and if it rains too early or if it rains too late after that, it just wipes everything out. You're just going to be looking at like dormant trees with no leaves on it. And that's what I was doing. The cool thing was, we got away, the wife, Mrs. Nerdicane and Nerdicane Jr. really enjoyed it. They had a good time. And I saw a flock of turkeys. Or is it called a flock? Yeah, right? It's birds. But they're terrestrial birds. So I guess it's a flock. I don't know. But anyway, I digress about the movement habits and of turkeys. I built a campfire. I don't like being outdoors. I'm not a big outdoorsy type person, but I do like making fire. I do like making campfires. And there's a thing about campfires is, if you do it right, if you build it right, if the coals in the center, if you've got that thing constructed properly, you can take a very low fire, a very small fire. If you have those good coals in the center, it's very easy to turn that back into a roaring fire. And it really got me thinking. In the daytime, you don't really keep the fire up too high because it's not that cold. You're not doing s'mores. You're not out there just sitting around the fire. But when it gets dark, we start picking it up. You pick the fire, you build the fire back up to a nice big, what you would expect to see in a campfire. And that really got me thinking about Star Wars. And the coals are there. Star Wars, the base of what it is still there. This is a time in, the Star Wars fandom, I've never seen this low amount of enthusiasm for Star Wars. Like, even in the period between Return of the Jedi in theaters and when the Zahn trilogy came out and they really started doing the EU, people were still passionate about Star Wars. It wasn't everywhere. It wasn't big. But there was still a very good burning passion for it. The coals in the center of the fire. The fire wasn't roaring. You couldn't see it from space. But the coals of that fire were still very, very good. And that's what I think we're in a period of Star Wars. We're actively getting new material, but the coals, the fire just can't be seen from space. It can be barely seen across the street. Last Jedi was awful. Rise of Skywalker is probably shaping up to be pretty awful. I've never been one to really get into spoilers and, the leaked things, like that. I've never really cared about that. But the things that have been coming out and the accuracy that we've been seeing in information leaks lately on movies, especially Disney and Star Wars movies, have got me very, very concerned. So the fire is very dim in the Star Wars world with the community right now. But I did something this weekend, or the last 2 days. I did something really good. And it reminded me that those coals are still there. They're still very much ready to be resparked. They're ready to fire back up, and you can see it from space. You can see it from across the galaxy. I watched The Mandalorian, episode 1, 2, 3. Just went back through and watched 1, 2, 3. And then I watched Rogue One. And I had a really good time. And then I went upstairs to the man cave, to the Nerdicave, and I played Jedi Starfighter, which was free on Xbox Live just a few days ago, last week. But it's an excellent game. You should have it. Jedi Starfighter was the sequel to Starfighter, which didn't get a whole lot of it didn't get a whole lot of attention because there was just so much else going on in Star Wars right then. But it's an excellent game. I did 3 things in the Star Wars universe that made me happy, that were fun, that were exciting, that were excellent. And it reminded me that those coals are still very hot. They're still ready to put some firewood on it, some fuel. They're ready for fuel. They're ready to put fuel back on it. There have been things. Rian Johnson is not fuel. He can't even spell fuel. This latest Rise of Skywalker, the trailers have not been fuel. And it's the 26th of November. We just got a clip dropped from it, and it just shows like these stormtroopers who get catapulted off of motorcycles, and then they turn on their jetpacks. Even for Star Wars, even for a galaxy far, far away, that sounds sort of stupid. If you go watch the video, if you go watch the footage, you'll be like, they're so surprised, like, oh, these guys fly? They fly now? Yeah, the troopers flew back in the Clone War days. You should probably, read up on that. But that's all I got for the, what do you guys think? Tell me what you think in this one. I'm going to wrap this one up. I don't want to go too far with this one. But the embers are still there. The core of the fire is still there. If you ask me, in my personal opinion, changes need to be made at Lucasfilm, starting with Kathleen Kennedy. And I watched this thing with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. There's two guys. I mean, it went back to the core of Star Wars. The beautiful thing about The Mandalorian, and it's absolutely excellent. You should get it. You should watch it. Star Wars, at its core, is the Jedi. The Jedi are samurai. Now, samurai movie, it's basically a samurai movie with laser swords. And Star Wars, when you get into Boba Fett, bounty hunters, Han Solo, kind of the smuggler, it's basically a Western. And that's very much what The Mandalorian gets back to. It gets back to the core of what it is. And, once again, with Rogue One, it gets right back to the core of what Star Wars is. There's two stories to Star Wars, if you ask me. There's Jedi, and then there's the soldiers fighting these wars. And that's what Rogue One was. But tell me what you think. Tell me if you think that these embers are, if they're good. I am an optimist. I'm very much like Luke Skywalker. I'm the biggest optimist in the galaxy. I think Star Wars can be salvaged, but we've spent the last 4 years just cranking out some turds. Rian Johnson, Solo, Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi. Oh my God, Last Jedi. I try to avoid it because the more I watch it, the more I hate that movie. And I don't want to be a person who hates Star Wars. And I don't think you do either. But tell me what you think in the comments. I'd like to get some interaction on this, get some conversation going. Thanks for listening. I'm going to go to Publix and probably get some steaks right now. But thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And you guys go have a good day. Bye.